Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. My name is Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And it's our literature unit. Today's work of literature is a novel called Starfish, and it's about finding space and self-assurance. Now, this book I don't think is specifically about starfish.
No.
Those slow-moving fish in the ocean that look like stars. But it's actually about people who live with weight problems and the bullying they face and how you can face the future if you happen to be overweight.
Right. So this is actually written by someone who went through the experience herself as she was growing up. And so we're going to talk about, what the novel is about first, and then day 2 we'll talk about the author, Lisa Phipps. She's a new novelist, so it's kind of exciting to get your first book published. We'll talk about more about the vocabulary and the phrases in here. But first, we're going to read through day 1.
When you hear laughter, someone's laughing at you. Move slowly so your body doesn't jiggle. Don't make waves. Make yourself small. 11-year-old Ellie has lived by these fat girl rules for years. She doesn't mind being fat, but it seems like everywhere she goes, someone does mind her presence. Since she did a cannonball into the pool at her 5th birthday party, Ellie's been mocked continuously by classmates who call her a whale. They slam doors in her face, suck in their bellies when she walks by, and once even loosened the screws of her desk so it collapsed when she sat down. This cruel bullying is compounded by the heartless remarks of strangers in public settings. The worst bully in Ellie's life, though, is her own mother. She puts Ellie on harsh diets and threatens her with bariatric surgery. Ellie can't seem to escape the daily reminders from all around that her body is wrong in other people's eyes. But Ellie has her ways to feel right, too. She loves to spend time floating in her pool, where she doesn't have to be small and can spread out like a starfish, drifting weightlessly. She has allies in her father, a new friend next door, and her patient, compassionate therapist, Dr. Wood. Through their support, she learns that she doesn't have to make herself small. She can reject the fat girl rules and the cruelty of the people who've imposed them on her. Ellie finds the power to stand up to her tormentors and advocate for herself. She learns to be exactly who she is without apology and without shrinking herself for anyone else's comfort.
Okay, guys, let's get started. Starfish is the name of the novel. And this, subtitle kind of tells us a little bit more about what the book has inside. Our author here describes Starfish as being kind of a novel about finding space and self-assurance. Sometimes you have to find space for yourself in the world, meaning you need to find a place where you feel comfortable and accepted and confident. It's not always easy, and it's especially hard when we go through our teenage years, in particular, when we don't feel a lot of self-confidence a lot of times. And, if you look around at those kids who seem to be really self-confident, I think underneath that you would find that they're not as self-confident as you think. Self-assurance is another way to talk about self-confidence, that feeling inside you that you feel like you have some good qualities and some good traits, and you're worth knowing.
Exactly. So that's the title of our novel for this month, Starfish. And here's what you might see in this novel, or here's what you might read in it. This is obviously somebody who's thinking to herself, when you hear laughter, someone's laughing at you. Move slowly so your body doesn't jiggle. Don't make waves. Make yourself small. Okay, so basically that's how we're introducing this topic to you with a passage from the book. Okay, this is what the main character in the book, is thinking to herself. Yeah, if someone's laughing, of course they're laughing at you. And of course you have to move your body so that it doesn't jiggle around, because if it does, people will make comments about it, and then you can't make waves. I think you would do that if you swim. I think it could also be figurative, where you're walking and maybe it seems like you're making people get out of your way or something because you're coming. And you also have to make yourself small. Don't let people see that you're big. Figure out ways to maybe hide or something.
Yeah, if you make waves, it's an informal expression that we use quite a bit that just talks about, hey, don't disturb people, don't cause trouble. Sometimes if you ask too many questions or you resist the rules and you don't go along with the flow or with everyone else, some people will say, oh, he just likes making waves or she just likes making waves. And in Taiwan in particular, we're a Confucian society, and so most everyone just likes to go along with the crowd. But if you don't, then sometimes you will be accused of making waves. So, yeah, these are thoughts that are in her head that she's heard from somewhere else, and we'll find out where in a minute.
Okay, so that's the first paragraph here, and here's the next paragraph. It says, 11-year-old Ellie has lived by these fat girl rules for years. So the first paragraph, therefore, is a bunch of these rules that she has had to live by. And yes, if you are overweight, if you're fat, these are things you need to remember. We should also point out that some people, probably most people, are not fat on purpose, okay? Some people have a genetic predisposition for being fat, and something you should all remember is that fat people know that they're fat, okay? They don't actually need you to remind them of that every day, okay? They very well know that they're overweight. So, yeah, cut them some slack, leave them alone, but in any case here, these are some rules that she's had to live by in order to make her life easier.
Yeah, it's already hard enough if you're overweight, so you don't need other people telling you that. It's kind of interesting how sometimes, we think, well, maybe if I just tell them. No, they already know. So, yeah, so we've got a character who's 11 years old. She's quite young. Her name's Ellie. She's lived by these fat girl rules for years. So I guess these are what she calls them. And we're going to find out who gave her these fat girl rules. She doesn't mind being fat. She actually is okay with it. But it seems like everywhere she goes, someone does mind her presence. I've been on a plane and have seen people react to rather large people sitting in the seat next to them. And they kind of silently but obviously make their disapproval known.
Exactly. So, hey, if you weren't so big like that, I could have more room in the plane here. Again, some of these people and most of these people probably can't help it. And, it's pretty easy. It's pretty difficult to actually lose weight. You basically have to starve yourself every day of your life in order to lose weight if you have a propensity or a tendency to be overweight. But that's another topic here. We're talking specifically about this novel here. So yes, indeed, everywhere she goes, someone seems to mind her presence. We don't want you around here. Could you just go away? And since she did a cannonball into the pool at her 5th birthday party, Ellie's been mocked continuously by classmates who call her a whale. A whale, of course, is a big creature that lives in the ocean. And, if you jump into water a certain way at a swimming pool, you can create a big splash.
Oh, yeah.
I believe a cannonball is where you jump in facing down and then you kind of grab your legs from
knees,
behind.
And you pull them up, right? Cannonball,
right.
Cannonball.
Sort of behind you and your head's going in first. That's one of the splashes. There are other ones. My brother used to do all sorts of them. I can't remember what we called them, but yeah, there are certain ways to land in the water so that you can create a large splash. And she did that when she turned 5 years old, and people noticed that, and so she was mocked. If you're mocked, people insult you, they make fun of you, and they'll probably be sarcastic at the same time.
Yeah, mocking, ridiculing are similar. You're making fun of someone, and it's not a nice joke, or you're not kidding around with them. Oh, sometimes with your best friends, you can mock them, but they know you love them. But here, I don't think it was meant in a caring way. I think they meant to embarrass her. So she's been mocked continuously by classmates. Continuously means without stopping. Constantly is not continuously. So if it's constantly, something happens, pretty regularly, but it's not all the time. Continuously means all the time. And they call her a whale, as Tom said. They slam doors in her face, suck in their bellies when she walks by, and once even loosened the screws of her desk so it collapsed when she sat down just to embarrass her. She has some pretty awful classmates, I must say. When I was growing up, we were never this mean. I think there are more and more fat kids out there because we're eating more food, wrong food. We're not exercising as much. But yeah, try to be kind to people, guys. You never know when you're going to need the kindness returned. Now, if you slam something, it's a verb we use when we're doing something with a lot of force. You're shutting a door or a window or even a lid closed, and it's kind of loud. Slam it shut. If you're angry and you're having an argument, a lot of times you want to leave the room and then slam the door behind you.
Then slam is kind of describing the sound there. Slam! The door will shut if you're angry. And also they suck in their bellies. In other words, they have their bellies sticking out a little bit, and then they kind of make them smaller. They suck them in as a way to make fun of her. And, of course, they also did something very cruel here. They loosened the screws of her desk, so when she sat down, it collapsed. It fell down. And that is very irresponsible. She could actually get hurt doing that. And you don't want to be responsible for something like that. Although most kids don't seem to care these days. Kids can be quite cruel. And I think that brings us to the midway point in our lesson for today. So let's take a break right here and listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。其实我们这几年一直在讲说要停止霸凌，不要校园霸凌，因为霸凌这种事好像真的常常发生。我们今天要谈一下，有一个小说特别就是在谈霸凌。这小说的这个名称叫做 Starfish。好，那当然我们在文章第一段的时候就看到很奇怪的描述，为什么你听到笑声是有人在笑你嘞？为什么你要缓慢的移动身体的肉才不会抖嘞？而且还不要兴起浪花，可能要把自己缩小一点，这什么东西啊？其实这就是书里面提到的 Fat Girl Rules 出现在第二段第一句的地方，这就是所谓的胖女孩生存法则。为什么胖女孩会有生存法则呢？因为太胖了，就是说会被霸凌。哇哦！主角是11岁的 Ellie， 她也出现在我们第二段第一句的地方。原来 Ellie 一直好多年来都被霸凌了。那当然她不介意自己的胖啦，因为不管她走到哪里，因为太胖的关系，大家都会注意到她。可是因为她常常会被人家霸凌欺负，基本上是什么样的情况呢？自从他5岁从生日 party 上面抱膝跳水引起很大的浪花之后， Ellie 就一直不断被嘲笑。被谁嘲笑呢？被同学嘲笑。同样在这句话当中有一个这个非限定用法补充说明的关系子句，先行词是 classmates， 逗点之后的 who 到句尾就是补充说明这些同学是谁呢？就是称他为金鱼的这些同学。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It's our literature unit, and we're going to be spending the next couple of programs talking about the novel Starfish. It was written by a new author. Her name is Lisa Phipps. And the character in the book, her name is Ellie. She's only 11 years old. And we're going to kind of follow her experience through school. She is overweight. That's a nicer way to say that someone's fat. or is huge or whatever. We've got quite a few people who are overweight these days. We don't always eat the right kinds of food, and sometimes we don't get enough exercise. Of course, it's food that is usually the problem, not the exercise. But as Tom said, some people have legitimate physical problems, and their bodies just hold on to weight more. It's easier for them to gain weight. My sister is an example. I grew up in a family of really skinny people. And then I had my sister. My sister, would eat the same amount as I would, and she would be so much bigger. So you never know, and you shouldn't judge people by that. So when we started, we talked about how Ellie has these fat girl rules in her mind, and she needs to just make herself small. Don't draw attention to herself. We know that she's mocked by her classmates. They call her a whale. They slam doors in her face just to be mean. They suck in their tummies or their bellies so that they look thinner as she walks by. And they even loosened the screws of her desk so that when she sat down, it just collapsed, which is very dangerous.
And cruel, of course, so this cruel bullying is compounded by the heartless remarks of strangers in public settings. So here we've got the verb to compound, which means to multiply something. It just increases in number, so the bullying basically gets worse when she's out in public, in a park, in a supermarket or someplace like that, and you hear remarks from strangers, okay, comments, and they're heartless. Oh, better get out of the way. There's a big woman coming. She might knock us down. They may say cruel things like that in public places.
Yeah, this word compound is a verb. It means you take a bad situation and you make it worse. So, yeah, the bullying is compounded or made worse by the heartless remarks of strangers in public settings. Yeah, it's bad enough that she has to put up with it in school, but she's got perfect strangers, people she doesn't know, who are actually making comments to her. Heartless just means without any feeling. So they're being rude and cruel as well. So the worst bully in Ellie's life, though, is her own mother. Sometimes our parents, they're trying to, get us to do certain things, and they make the mistake of actually making it worse. So my mom was kind of bad about my sister for a while, and then she realized she wasn't helping with her comments, like, don't take that extra cookie, Jenny, or don't, But sometimes parents, we're all learning as we go along. Her mom made comments that just further increased her lack of self-confidence and feeling good about herself.
I should mention here that the word bully is a noun, but it can also be a verb, and it can also be the concept bullying. Bullying in school is a big problem. There are bullies in school who bully other students. You can use it in many forms. And, of course, the worst bully of all is her own mother, which is not really surprising to me. She puts Ellie on harsh diets and threatens her with bariatric surgery. So, of course, people think that, hey, if you're just on a diet, you'll lose weight. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Again, some people just have a genetic predisposition for being overweight.
It's in your genes.
An example would be Ann Wilson of Heart. I don't know if you've heard of her before, the music band Heart.
Sure.
She's got that problem, and she's always been on strict diets because she's a rock star, and she has to be thin. So, yeah, she's under that pressure as well. But her sister doesn't have that problem. Nancy Wilson is nice and thin.
Oh, yeah, they're complete. That's kind of like me and Jenny. But sometimes diets make things worse for you. So, yeah, actually, that lady you're talking about, Ann Hart, is that her name?
Ann Wilson.
Ann Wilson. She's probably normal size to people who don't perform, but if you're a performer, you have to be really skinny. Now, let's get back to Ellie's mother. She puts her on harsh or really hard diets, probably makes Ellie feel so hungry all the time, and then threatens her with bariatric surgery. Bariatric surgery has come into popularity in the last, I would say, 20 years, especially the last 10. People will go in and have their stomach size reduced so they can only eat so much before they feel very full. It's not always successful, though, but that's one of the methods people are using to lose weight. Ellie can't seem to escape the daily reminders from all around that her body is wrong in other people's eyes. There's something wrong with you because you weigh more than other people. That's kind of that daily reminder. What's a reminder, Tom?
Something that makes you remember something. If you need to go somewhere and do some errands, you might need a friendly reminder from your mother or from your wife or something. Yeah, let me give you a reminder. You're supposed to see the doctor today at 4 o'clock. Oh, I almost forgot. Thank you for that reminder. And yes, indeed, as I said earlier, people who are overweight don't need these reminders, but people seem to think they're doing them a favor by reminding them that their body is wrong. But Ellie has her ways to feel right, too. Okay, so if you know you're overweight, of course, you need to have some strategies to feel like you're a legitimate human being. For example, she loves to spend time floating in her pool, where she doesn't have to be small and can spread out like a starfish drifting weightlessly. Hence the title, okay? So yeah, imagine if you're floating in a pool and you're overweight and all day long you've been trying to hide the fact that you're overweight. When you get in the swimming pool, you don't have to hide anymore. You can let yourself go and float out and like a starfish, you're going to let your arms and your legs stick out in the same directions as a starfish. So indeed, she does feel free then and she can drift weightlessly, indeed being in a swimming pool, especially if you're overweight and you're carrying that weight around all day long, it can be quite soothing or relaxing to just float in the swimming pool.
But she has allies in her father. An ally is somebody who's on your side, someone you can trust to be a friend to you. She's got a new friend next door and another ally, her therapist, Dr. Wood. Okay, so compassionate. We're describing this person as being compassionate. If you're compassionate, we use this word to talk about people who show sympathy or pity. Better yet, they show understanding for people who are suffering. And her therapist, a therapist is a type of person who's giving treatment to someone who's suffering. It could be something to relieve a disorder, or it could be someone who's treating someone with mental or psychological problems. And her own personal doctor, her therapist, sounds like a good person, an ally.
So she's got some people who support her father, a friend next door, and her therapist who is compassionate. And through their support, she learns that she doesn't have to make herself small. And she can reject the fat girl rules and the cruelty of the people who've imposed them on her. Here we've got the word cruelty. We did mention the word cruel before. That means people are just being mean for no real reason at all. They can be physically cruel. You can be cruel to animals, for example, if you beat your dog or something like that.
Yeah.
And the whole concept of that is cruelty. So, of course, she can reject the cruelty of the people who've imposed cruel things on her. And Ellie finds the power to stand up to her tormentors and advocate for herself. So here we've got a phrase to stand up to someone. That means someone is being mean to you. They're doing bad things to you. So you turn around and face them and say, I don't like that. And we're going to deal with this problem right now. So she stands up to her tormentors. A tormentor, of course, is somebody who torments you or tortures you or is cruel to you.
Yeah, so she's able to stand up for herself. She is able to confront these people fearlessly. Something that's similar is stand up for. If you stand up for something, it means you defend the cause of something, you support a cause. But here she's standing up to the people who are tormenting her, who are abusing her, and she's able to advocate or support herself there. So she learns to be exactly who she is, without apology and without shrinking herself for anyone else's comfort. If you shrink, usually we talk about it when we wash clothes and it makes our clothes smaller. But here, if you shrink yourself, it's like you're trying to make yourself almost invisible so no one notices you.
Sounds like a very inspirational book, not just for people who are overweight, but for people who have other problems or conditions that cause other people to bully you. So this might be helpful if you read this book. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
当然还有很多一些其他的这些霸凌事件可是艾莉一生当中遇到最恶劣的霸凌者其实是他自己的妈妈在第二段第7句这个地方，首先这个重点呢，就是我们看到中间有一个逗点，里面有一个字叫做 though 我们通常都会背是虽然连接词，可是要特别小心though 只要前面有逗点，它一定就会等于一个副词，而且文意叫做 however， 还蛮常插入在句中的，而且更常发生在句子的最后一个字。有时候我们会说逗点 though， 就是然而怎样怎样。那他妈妈如何呢？基本上他也觉得艾莉太胖，所以叫他很严格的节食，而且还用减肥手术来威胁他减肥手术是非常危险很伤身体的。第8句我们来看一下，后面的 with 这个介系词可以抓出来，它也可以表示工具，用什么样的方式，那它搭配的就是前面的这样子的一个 threaten 的动作，威胁他。用什么东西来威胁呢？ with 用减肥手术来威胁。好，当然每天都会被提醒说自己很胖，然后要吃很少，然后努力的节食，所以其实他似乎都逃避不了每天这种提醒，他的身体在别人眼中好像是错误的第9句这个地方我们看到一个 that， 我们来特别看一下，这里的 that 是一个关代 that 还是一个连接词补语的 that 呢？先把前面的名词画起来， The daily reminders from all around， 身边所有每天提醒他很胖这件事情。 that 之后我们来检查一下， Her body is wrong in other people's eyes， 我们以动词 is 为出发，前面看到主词 her body， be 动词后面看到补语 wrong， 接下来有一个副词片语的补充 in other people's eyes， 在别人的眼中，在别人的观点。也就是说 that 后面是一个完整子句，什么都不缺，没缺主词，也没缺受词，也没缺补语。换句话说 that 只是很单纯的连接词，它是一个等号的概念。在别人眼中他的身体是错的这件事情，就等于每天周遭接受到的这个提醒，这个 reminder 就是后面这件事情他的身体是个错的。好，那当然这样子的状况很糟糕，不过 Ellie 也有他自己可以感觉 right 正确的方式，比如说他就很喜欢游泳然后呢游泳的话呢就觉得好像可以像 Starfish 海星一样，可以无重力的漂流。在第3段我们注意第2句这个地方，首先 spend 花钱花时间做一件事情，后面要加上动词 ing floating。 再来有一个补充说明的关系子句，先行词是 her pool 他们家的游泳池，逗点之后的 where 到句尾可以左右挂号起来， where 在这里是一个关复，表示在游泳池当中。最后面逗点的 drifting weightlessly 就有2种解释了。第一种解释有可能是关系子句修饰前面的 a starfish， 如果是这种解释的话，还原我们可以说是 which drifts。 那我们也可以当成是一个分词构句，逗点之后是 and drift， 那么它这里的 and 就连接的是前面的 spread out 这个动作，跟后面的 drift weightlessly 有2种解释。不管哪一种解释了，我们看到的都是一个句子的简化，让文章可以流畅。好，所以后来呢，当然 Ellie 有一些盟友，像是父亲啦，还有他的心理治疗师啦，还有新的邻居。后来他透过朋友的支持，父亲的支持，他知道自己可以拒绝胖女孩的生存法则。好，我们接下来呢，在明天我们会特别在针对这个文章，这个所谓的这本 Starfish 这个小说做更深入的讨论。我是安娜，我们明天见。
That's it for today, everybody. And please join us again next time when we continue to talk about Starfish. We'll talk about the author, Lisa Phipps, and maybe some more about the book itself. We look forward to seeing you then. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.